Hey y'all. Okay, so we are going to have wings tonight. Yesterday we made our salt and vinegar dry rub, and so we're going to use that tonight for our meal. So we're going to treat the dry rub like it was a wet sauce. So you're not going to put it on before you bake the wings. We are going to make our own mixture before we bake the wings so that they'll be nice and crispy, and then we'll toss them in the salt and vinegar sauce after. So I'm going to walk you through how to do this. We're going to prep our oven to 425. And then we need, let me see, baking powder, salt, and pepper. We need thyme and oregano. We need some onion powder and garlic powder, and last of all, paprika. And so we have in this bowl about half a cup of baking powder. That's probably too much, honestly. For the cup would do you good. But my family eats about 4 pounds of wings whenever we eat them. And so we like to eat a lot, I guess. And so what we're going to do is we have about half a cup of baking powder. I don't know if you can see that here. We have a teaspoon of black pepper, about a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder. We have about half a teaspoon of the thyme leaves and a quarter teaspoon of the ground oregano. So ground oregano, for the thyme and oregano, if you can get ground, that is better. It's going to coat your wings more uniformly and mix in with the other powders more easily. If you have the leaves, I find that they're pretty on the wings. They look beautiful, but they do not stick to them like you want them to. So we have our little mixture made here, and we're going to set it to the side. Our wings, I have washed them first. I have picked off any of the additional like little feathers that may be on them, any of the fat. We love the fat. We like for it to get nice and crispy. But if there's too much, I find that it doesn't always crisp up like it is supposed to, because it's too thick to cook, if you will. So what I do is I may cut off some of those like unsavory looking chunks of fat. But we want to wash them. We want to make them look clean and nice and dry them. So most importantly, if you can take anything home, make sure that they are dry. Then after that, we're going to toss them in our little mixture that we just made and then pop them on the pan. So come on. Okay, so we have our wings. They've been drying. Let me put some little gloves on. Oh, gotta get this hair pulled back. Pop some in there. You can see that, and then toss them in the sauce. Once they're tossed, we just, if you're using, back to this, a pan like this is like one of those air fry pans, make sure that you have something underneath it to catch the drippings, like the fat drippings whenever they happen. Typically, I'll use a big, large sheet pan and put a grate or something like this on it and then lay them on top of here to where they're able to get, they're not laying directly on the pan. So that's ideally what you want. We toss them in our mixture, and they're going to look coated just like this. Can you see that? You do not need to make as much of the baking powder mixture if you have a much smaller amount of wings that you're doing, obviously, but in case you didn't know, you don't have to make as much as I did. So when you're tossing them in the baking powder mixture, make sure that they are fully coated with the mixture. You don't want to leave any of the skin bare. So we wouldn't want to like stick it on the pan half done like that. We want to make sure that they're completely covered. Okay, so they all sit on the pan, and afterwards, this is silly, but I'll like sprinkle some more of the baking powder on the top. We want that baking powder on them. You don't want it too thick on the top of them because it will just sit there. It'll sit there and burn. But I do sprinkle a little extra in case like some of it fell off whenever they were touching each other or I were moving them around. So now they're ready to stick. Woo! Almost dropped them there. But now they're ready to stick in the oven. The leftover that we have here, we do have a little bit. If you have more wings, you can toss it in it, or I just throw it away, chunk it. So our oven is set to 425, and in we go. So I have the wings in the oven, and I have a pan underneath to catch any of the drippings. We're going to leave them in there for about an hour, but I'm going to check on them every 20 minutes just to make sure that they're doing good. At the 20-minute mark, if they look dried on the top, I'm going to flip them over and I'm going to make sure that the other side gets crispy too. So even though they're on that baking rack, we want to make sure that they flip to where all the sides get cooked the same. So we'll check back in a minute. Okay, so just like that, our wings are done. We have them out of the oven. They baked for roughly an hour. They look beautiful. Take a look at that. They're just golden, crispy, just lovely. They're beautiful. So we got a few here. We're just gonna toss them in the bowl. Make sure that they're all nice and coated. Maybe shake off the excess. And just like that, they're done. Beautiful. Take a look. They're lovely. So they're ready to eat. We treated the salt and vinegar dry rub just like a wet sauce. They're so vinegary. They're great. So I'm excited. Okay, so we have our wings. They're done. These are for you. And then as we promised, we did something. Well, how are they?
Well, you're asking like you want to know, as if you haven't already sampled them.
I know.
But
they're so good, aren't they?
they're so good.
They're ridiculous.
They're more vinegary.
They are. But, okay, so you
more
tasted
wangy
this one.
than the normal.
Super wangy. We like the wang. You know that. So you tried that one. Hang on. So as we promised, we were going to soak some of the wings in vinegar to make them more wangy, pickled, so that we could sample that.
Wings.
I did not do it overnight. I did it for like 30 minutes to an hour before I baked them. So these are those wings here. Get you one of those.
And that's good because we didn't want the vinegar to change the structure of the meat and make it like rubbery, which can happen.
And I was kind of worried about that. But tell me what you think about that. Did it make a difference?
Yes.
We're waiting to know. It does?
You did two things.
Okay. What do we do? I'm so excited, y'all.
The vinegar had a drying effect.
Okay.
You know, vinegar, you take a swig and it dries your mouth out.
Absolutely.
It has a drying effect. And so it like dried out the fat, the skin.
Okay.
And so it's a lot more crisp on the ones that you soaked in vinegar.
Okay.
You know, sometimes you want the wings to be really crispy, but then the meat's kind of dried out. You fried them too long or whatever.
It's kind of a fine line. And that, you watched me bake them. You do have to turn them and keep an eye on them. So it's a fine line of like, I want my chicken to be nice and moist and tender, but I want the outside to be crisp and brown. So you just have to keep an eye on them. And the more you do them, you'll know. But that's what he's talking about.
So
that's awesome.
The ones you pickled, a little crisper, a lot more vinegar.
That's very cool.
Which is win-win.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, all chicken wings should be pickled.
So 30, 40 minutes, just soak them in vinegar before you bake them. Bake them. So we love y'all. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay, we got to eat.